Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Dragon's Dogma 2. I've been really struggling not to call it Baldur's Gate 3 while I've been thinking about it over the last week. And I wanted to get started with some videos on this game because, as you may have noticed from yesterday's video, I have completed my first playthrough and really took my time experimenting with it. So, today we're going to be going over the vocations. We're going to be going through all 10 of the vocations and I will be ranking them for you based on basically how much I liked them. I am considering strengths, weaknesses, applicability, all sorts of stuff like that, but obviously it's not objective. This is just based off of my experience maxing each of these vocations out and how much fun I had with it, how easy it was, how difficult it was, you know, etc. So, it is opinion-based, but I feel like it's a pretty good ranking. But before we get into all of that, something that I've never done before on the channel and I'm going to start doing to see if it actually helps at all. I am at a little over 80,000 subscribers right now. I've been doing this for years. I want to get to 100,000 subscribers. That's my goal. So if you haven't subscribed already, drop a subscribe. Come on. You've probably watched videos before, and if this is your first one, welcome aboard. That's awesome to have you here. But please, this is my reminder. Please subscribe to the channel. Help me get over that 100,000 threshold, and then I'll stop asking for it. I've never asked for it before. I'm going to start now. We're going to see if that actually helps. But now with all that out of the way, let's just get into the meat of this video. And so this isn't going to be a lot of action-based stuff, or I know a lot of people are like, well, show us the gameplay. Figure it out yourself. You'll see the gameplay all over the place. I'm not going to sit here and do it for each and every one. I just want to talk about them and rank them. So let's just get through it. So at the number 10 spot, I put the Trickster. This one was by far my least favorite one. And so I'm obviously rating these from worst to best, 10 being the worst. So in this case, the Trickster is the worst. I didn't like this role. I took my time with it, tried to figure out if I was just doing something wrong, but it's just not that fun of a role. First of all, it seems to be pretty much just support, which, hey, if you like playing support, that's fine, but this isn't a multiplayer game. You know, this isn't something that you're playing with your friends and one of them is doing something and so you're able to help them with this support role. You're helping NPCs, which is just really boring in my opinion, so I did not have fun with this one. You can see that, like I said, most of the stuff that you can unlock in this role it's interesting stuff. Some of it can provide cool buffs or whatever, and you can make walls and fake floors and smoke screens and all sorts of stuff like that. Overall, just not that interesting of a role to play as. So I'm not saying you can't get anything useful from it, it's just personally my least favorite one. There's really only two things that make me care about this one at all and recommend getting it eventually just so you can get them, and it's two of the augments you can get for it. One of them is Allure, so that enables you to raise your affinity with people more easily. That one's useful if you're trying to raise your affinity with people, so I like that augment. And then the Detection augment is great because that alerts you to the presence of any Seeker's tokens or Wakestone shards in the vicinity with sound and blinking lights. So if you're looking for Wakestone shards and Seeker's tokens, the Detection one is awesome. And with all of the augments in this game, it doesn't matter what class you're playing as. Once you have an augment unlocked, you can use it for any class. So those two are useful augments that you can only get through this vocation. But with all that being said, like I said, the Trickster is the number 10. It's the worst one in the game, in my opinion. Next up at number 9, we have one that I thought I was going to like, but I just didn't end up really liking that much, and it's the Archer. Now, this one is combat direct, and it is useful in the way that you can obviously use ranged combat, and not all of it is terrible. I had a lot more fun with this one than I did with the Trickster. Basically, from here on out, I had at least some fun playing as each of these vocations. The problem with the Archer is it just doesn't hit very hard. Like I said, you have the advantage of being a more skilled ranged fighter, but overall, it just feels so weak compared to the vast majority of the other roles that you can play with in this game. Now, it's fairly good against low-level enemies like goblins and stuff like that, and it's great for hunting, so if you're taking down animals like deer or rabbits or even wolves and stuff like that, it's a great role for all of those things. It's just not great against especially bosses. It just feels so weak against bosses. As far as skills that you can get with this one, or not skills, but there are 4, which is useful enough. In combat, I like it when you have a full 4 that you are actually able to get your hands on. As far as the augments go, there are 2 of them that I find to be somewhat useful. Avidity enables you to clamber up cliffs and scale foes and other surfaces more quickly. That's useful for a lot of situations, obviously, just world traversal, getting up and down cliffs and stuff quicker, and being able to climb up bigger bosses quicker. So that one is useful. I use that one on a number of different builds. And then Endurance is just one that increases your maximum stamina. So both of those are useful enough perks or augments that you can only get through the Archer vocation. But that's number 9. And number 8, we have the Mage, which is another one of the 4 starting classes. This one, again, I'm sure there are some people out there that really love it. For me, it just didn't really slap home. The only reason I placed it above Archer is because if you use it in the right way, you know, you can deal significantly more damage with it. Plus, it has other perks like being able to heal and, of course, the magical ability to hover/fly, which the two magic users in this game have, which is also useful. But yeah, so the Mage is my number 8 spot. Again, you definitely want one in your party, but it's not super fun to play as the Mage, or at least based on my experience doing it. There are a good split between the combat and support ones for this one, at least, so you can have basically all of your flagration, levin, frigger, you know, that type of stuff where you're dealing your basic elemental damage, and some of this stuff can actually deal a significant amount, so it at least doesn't feel like you're just, you know, a weak nothing that can't do anything in combat. They are fairly useful. In addition to that, again, like I said, it's good to be able to heal people, but I'd just rather have one of my pawns be a mage. I don't like doing it as much. As far as augments, there's really only one that I use a whole lot on this one, but there are two that I guess I would say are fairly useful. Exaltation augments your stamina recovery speed, so this one just helps you build your stamina back up quicker. That's useful for pretty much any build, so Exaltation is the one that I would say is a good augment. However you pronounce that one, Apatropeism augments your magic defense. Again, that's useful just in general, giving you a greater defense against magic. I'm not saying the rest of these aren't somewhat useful, like Beatitude makes curatives more effective, and Intervention reduces the duration of debilitations you're afflicted with. Those are all useful, like I said. It's just, you know, not so much that they make me want to play as a mage. So yeah, the Mage takes the number 8 spot. And number 7, we have the Warrior, and this is where we're getting into the ones that I definitely had more fun playing with. The Warrior is obviously your great big brute barbarian type playstyle. You use great swords and hammers, you know, big, heavy, swinging impact weapons. And from what I've been told online, a lot of people say if you've got like a skill problem or if you're just struggling with the game in general, the Warrior's the way to go because you just bonk your way to victory. And that's fair. It wasn't very hard to play as this one because it's just, you know, a tank. But yeah, this one, it's okay. I liked it. Like I said, I had more fun with it than I had with the Archer, the Mage, or certainly the Trickster. Again, most of your attacks, at least on this one, all of your special abilities or your weapon skills, I should say, or the vast majority of them are going to be combat related, which makes it more fun to play as. And you can do some that are pretty insane. You know, they'll do just a ridiculous amount of damage, or they're just fun to do. Like I particularly like, it's just showed in that video there, the Mountain Breaker, stabbing up into a Cyclops' groin is always very enjoyable. As far as the augments go, Vitality is obviously useful all around, increases your maximum health. Dominance is another one that I quite like for a lot of builds, that just gives you a much greater knockdown power. And Intrepidity reduces culmination of the loss gauge when receiving damage. So all three of those can be very useful, and I use them on multiple, I'll use them on different builds. So as far as useful augments, you're getting into some more just broadly useful ones with this vocation. But yeah, the Warrior is, a lot of people are gonna really love it. For me, the reason it doesn't rank higher is I like rapid DPS type builds, the ones where you're getting your much higher damage because you're hitting so many more times, because I just find that, especially going for, you know, min-maxing builds and stuff like that, I can really get a much higher damage potential out of that as opposed to just one big strike. Because if you miss that one big strike or it gets interrupted or something like that, then your damage output is 0 instead of like 70% of whatever your max would be with a rapid hitting one. So I've never been a big fan of the heavy swinging barbarian builds. If you really like that sort of stuff, and in this game, if you do it right, it can be a lot of fun, then the Warrior's for you. But for me, it's number 7. And number 6, we have the other magic-based build, and this one is, of course, the Sorcerer. This one I like slightly more than the Mage, because for me, playing as it, there was a much higher damage potential. That being said, overall in the party, they're arguably less useful. Now, if you have both in your party, if you've got a Mage and a Sorcerer, that can be useful, because the Sorcerer has some attacks that, although taking a long time to do, deal a tremendous amount of damage. But they definitely have a lot less support ability to them, so, you know, they don't really help heal quite so much, which is what makes the Mage so useful in your party. But like I said, they're definitely more fun to play as than the Mage because of that higher damage output. And again, there are plenty of fun weapon skills that you can go through. Like I said, these ones are, for the most part, all focused on damage. The only problem with a lot of these is they feel like they take so long to cast, and they're fine against bosses, let's put it that way. It works really well against big bosses. It's a great vocation against them, but when you're going against smaller bosses, it almost feels like it's better just to get out of the way and let whatever your direct combat party members are going to do, because they just take so long to cast. That being said, the high schism or seism, I assume it's supposed to be like seismic because it's you know, a big eruption of rocks or whatever. This one's great. It's so much fun to do. It's this huge area of effect. It does these multiple big rocky explosions. It deals a ton of damage. So, like, there are fun things to play with the Sorcerer role, and that is one of my favorite attacks to use with this one. As for augments on this one, none of them, I mean, again, they all have their uses for whatever build you're going for, but for me, I don't use a ton of them a lot. Sagacity, I don't know how you pronounce that, augments your magic, so if you're going for any type of a build, build where you want more magic, then obviously this is good for that. And then the other one is Constancy, which augments your knockdown resistance. So that one I use probably the most out of all the augments for this one, just because it's great not being as easy to knock down. So yeah, not a lot to speak for there. The Sorcerer can be fun to play with, and you know, that's why it is number 6 for me. At number 5, we have the Fighter, and I'm going to try to speed this up because I feel like I've been dicking around with a lot of these and just kind of rambling. But the Fighter's the one I started with because, you know, that's typical of me. Sword and shield, sword and board kind of build. That's where I like to start off with. But it's your really basic combat build. It's probably your most survivable in my opinion, because you wear heavy armor, you have a decently fast but also decently powerful damage output with your one-handed weapons, and you have the protection ability and parrying ability with your shield. So this one is probably the best for beginners, I would say, but it's also a lot of fun to play as. I definitely had a lot of fun with it. Like I said, I did start with it. This one is, like I said, it's got a lot of that survivability, so at least half of the weapon skills are defensive. So again, if you're going for a really aggressive offensive playstyle, this one probably isn't the best for you, but if you like a balance between offense and defense, then this one is probably the best one in the game. Augments on this one that are useful, obviously metal augments your physical defense, and it's actually a huge boost, so that's one of the most useful augments just in general in the game, so I definitely like that one. Provocation is useful if you're trying to draw focus onto yourself away from anyone else. I use that one on quite a few builds, basically anything where I'm planning on tanking. Thew is just broadly useful, gives you extra carry weight for your inventory, so that one's also super useful. If you find yourself carrying people, Dominion can be quite useful, or I guess pinning them down, which I didn't do a whole lot, but I did find a couple times in the game where I like to carry people and throw them off high places. So Dominion can be useful for that. And Diligence hastens your recovery when you're down to crawling. That's useful. I can't tell you how many times in combat I've been just super frustrated by the fact that I can't get up quick enough. Diligence is one that helps you recover quicker. So a lot of useful augments for this one. Like I said, this one, in my opinion, is probably the most forgiving of all the vocations, but it's also a lot of fun. At number 4, we have the Magick Archer, which is where we're starting to get into the more advanced classes that you don't really get until later in the game, or I mean, I guess it depends on your exploration. But anyway, the Magick Archer is a magical version of the Archer, but because of that, significantly more fun than the regular Archer role, which is unusual for me to say because typically I prefer regular things over magical things, but this one is definitely more fun. So for one thing, you can deal a lot more damage with it. Your DPS potential with the Magick Archer is infinitely higher than with the standard Archer. But, you know, also with that, you do use up just a ton of magic when you're doing it. So if you want to be a mage that uses a bow, this is the one for you. There are a ton of fun attacks with this one, or fun weapon skills, I should say. And it probably has some of, if not the absolute most creative animations out of any of the roles in the game. So it's very flashy, very fun to do. And like I said, it's basically the Archer if the Archer dealt a lot more damage. As far as useful augments with this one, now for the most part, this one is very, very useful as, ironically, as a support role, but it's probably the support role that allows you personally to do the most damage out of all of them. I mean, like I said, you can do quite a bit with the Mage role as well, but this one is pretty useful. My favorite augment out of this is Prolificity. I assume it means prolific. But anyway, it increases the likelihood that smaller targets will drop items. That one's just useful for me because I like focusing on collecting all the stuff so I can upgrade stuff, and that just makes it so I'm getting those things dropped from smaller enemies more frequently. So I find that one useful in a lot of builds. Other than that, all the augments can be useful if you're playing a support role. So Sustainment augments the physical defense and magic defense of pawns in your party. It makes all your pawns, their defense much higher. Ascendancy augments the strength and magic of pawns in your party. So if you have that, as well as the first one, you're making them deal more damage and take less damage. So it's very useful for, like I said, any support role. And then Amelioration reduces the amount of time taken for fallen pawns to revive. So all three of those are super useful for making your pawns a lot better. So if you want to play a support role that can also deal damage, I find the Magick Archer is the best way to go because you can really help out your party with these skills in here. And of course, you could use these for any other build once you have them. But you can also deal quite a bit of damage. Next up at number 3, we have one of the original 4 that makes it into my top 3, obviously, and that is the Thief. This one is a dual dagger build, which normally would be a little bit too edgelordy for me, but the rapid fire DPS of it, I just love it. It's one of, even at the end of the game, and we'll get to that, I still find myself playing essentially as a Thief. So the Thief Vocation is my number 3 spot. As far as attacks on this one, now this one again is halfway in between. It has a lot of DPS potential, but it's also got a lot of other stuff, so you can distract enemies, enemies, you can just kind of piss them off running around. It allows you to do like a smoke shroud for, you know, confusing your enemies, making it so they can't even see you and stuff like that. Very useful stuff. There's things like the implicate, which can pull flying enemies or enemies up on a cliff or whatever down towards you, or, you know, yank on a Cyclops' leg or something like that. I use that one a lot in combat just because it's fun. And then you get things like Skull Splitter, which is one of the highest DPS attacks in the game because it does this huge spinning up in the air thing that just saws down the enemy's whole body on the way down. So it's fun, and you can deal a lot of damage with it, and you can also do things like steal things from enemies once they've flinched or whatever. So there are lots of useful and very fun things to do with the Thief. But for me, it's just the overall total gameplay of it is so much fun to play as. As far as the augments on this one, Subtlety is useful because this one, it's the opposite of, like I said, when I play as a tank build, I like to draw the attention on me. When I play as anything that's not a tank build, like a glass cannon or support or anything like that, Subtlety is useful, so they attack someone else, which allows you to greatly help do whatever you're trying to do. Gratification can be useful. Every time you kill an enemy, you get some health back, so that's always a useful perk. Vigor is great if you find yourself climbing enemies and trying to stay on their back and stuff like that for longer, because this one just makes it so your stamina doesn't drain as fast. And of course, Verve just gives you a boost to your strength. So there are a lot of useful, just broadly applicable augments for the Thief, and it's also super fun to play as. So that is my number 3 spot. And number 2, we've got one that I did not think I was going to like, but I ended up absolutely loving it, and it's the Mystic Spearhand. This one is so close to being the best one in the game. It's a ton of fun. So this one is a great combination. It's only available for you as the player. Pawns cannot do the Mystic Spearhand, much like the Magick Archer, Trickster, and Warfare vocations. But yes, the Mystic Spearhand is it's a mix between melee and magical damage, which makes it just super broadly applicable. As far as the weapon skills on this one, like I said, there's a ton of stuff you can do. The ones that I find particularly fun, I love Wild Fury. It's one of the most fun ultimate attacks in the game, and in my opinion, is just, makes me think that this vocation was specifically designed after Celebrimbor's character from the Shadow games, from Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, because it looks exactly like him, like his movements, and the fact that, I mean, this is a double-sided sword staff or something like that, whereas his is a glaive, but still, really cool, really close, really similar, and I love it. Another one I love is the Magick Spearhand. It's basically just this big, I mean, it's a magical attack, but it looks like you're launching this laser bolt out of your spear, so it's a fun ranged one that deals quite a bit of damage and is useful in a lot of combat situations. Unto Heaven is another one that I love because it gives you, it has kind of a long build up and it's kind of hard to aim, but if you've got anyone directly in front of you, it allows you to just knock them out of the park, which is so much fun, and obviously, you know, typically just kills whoever you've launched that far because it's hard to live from impact like that. But very fun class to use, very effective. The DPS potential is huge on this one, and like I said, it gives you a combination of magic and physical damage that you really can't get almost anywhere else in the game. As far as augments for this one, Conveyance is useful. It makes you move faster when you're carrying or lifting anything, so that can be useful for basically any gameplay. Opulence is great for farming gold because it makes it so you get more gold whenever you get a gold pouch. Polarity is interesting. I don't use it that much because it's a weakness at times, so it makes you augments. I shouldn't say a weakness because it doesn't have a negative effect, but during the day it makes your strength stronger, and during the night it makes your magic stronger. So it is very useful because this build is a hybrid build. Refulgence is one that gives you more rift crystals, so obviously that's useful. And athleticism is another one that is just broadly applicable for basically any vocation and any build. It reduces the stamina consumed while dashing, so very useful augments that you can get with this one. And like I said, just overall fantastic vocation that I absolutely love. And it would have been the number 1 spot if it wasn't for, of course, the Warfarer, which is basically just do whatever you want, which is why it makes it so fun. Now, mind you, there are some things that you can do with the specialized vocations that you can't do with the Warfarer, but that being said, this one allows you to play as basically anything you want, and you can use anything that you've unlocked, any of your weapon skills and augments and stuff that you've unlocked from any of the other classes. You can wear any armor, use any weapons, all that sort of stuff. The only problem with the Warfarer one, and maybe they'll fix it, or maybe it's just something that I have been doing wrong, is unfortunately you still have to use the applicable weapon to use the applicable weapon skills. So, for example, the perfect Warfarer for me would be a combination of the Thief and the Mystic Spearhand, but the problem is a lot of your ultimate attacks on there. So like for the Mystic Spearhand, the coolest ultimate attack, the one that, like I said, reminds me of Celebrimbor from the Shadow games, you can't even do that with the Warfarer. So that kind of sucks because I love that one. But you can't do like the Skull Splitter attack if you're using a double-sided spear, you have to be using daggers. So for me, for this one to actually be as good as it possibly could be, you would have to be able to do any of your weapon skills with any of your weapons. And I'm sure that would require some balancing, so you're not doing the skull splitter with like a greatsword or something like that. But still, I feel like it should work with a double-sided spear. But in any case, I'm getting off on a tangent. This one's the best because it just allows you the ultimate amount of freedom. Yes, you're probably not going to min-max as well with the Warfare as you could with a specific vocation, but for me, it offered the ultimate enjoyment and really allowed me to wear whatever I wanted. And as everyone knows in games like this, it's all about the fashion. And so you can see that that is what I'm currently rocking in my second playthrough here. And I'm wearing nice heavy plate armor with some sick thief daggers. So it allows you to have a lot of creative freedom. As far as weapon skills, like I said, you basically just can go through all of the weapon skills, or the vast majority, because there are some that are missing, but the vast majority of the weapon skills that you've unlocked with every other vocation that you've done, and since I've maxed all of them out, I have all of them. Nowhere else could you get that level of freedom than with this specific build. And also same for you get all the core skills, which is useful, which makes it kind of OP because, I mean, it's not, because most of these are just things that you have to have that specific weapon equipped to do it with, but you know, you get what I'm saying. As far as augments go, again, like any of them, you can use all of them, but you really just want to build it for whatever weapons you're going to have equipped, because that's what you're going to want to pick your weapon skills for. But yes, in my opinion, I think the Warfarer is specifically designed to be the best one in the game. But yeah, that is all 10 of them for me. Like I said, this is mostly just opinion-based. This is all based on my experience doing each one of these. If you feel differently, I would love to hear which one's your favorite, which one's your least favorite. Did you love one that I really don't like, and did you hate one that I really like? Let me know all of that down in the comment section below, but I've rambled enough for today. That's today's video. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.